Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on, everybody? This is Joseph Conlon, and I was here to do a news roundoff video to end off the week of wrestling here tonight. I was either going to upload it tonight or tomorrow morning, but we are here for not that. We are here for an emergency video that I had to come on and make. I would have made it much earlier today, but I had work for 8 hours, and there's no possibility of me making a video at work, and I didn't want to do that anyway. So we are here to make an emergency video tonight because there was a releasing of Wyndham Rotunda, aka Bray Wyatt. And as I found this out, first off, when I read this on Twitter, my eyes got big, like really big, like this. And I was like, at first I was like, is this fake news? Is this not real? Is it coming from a troll on the internet? And at first I read it on Fightful, and I was like, that's fake. It's got to be fake. And then I go on to WWE's Twitter account, and the first tweet you see is, "We have released Bray Wyatt, and we wish him the best in his future." And that whatever tweet they say to whatever superstar they're releasing, that's the tweet they make. And as I'm processing this in my head, I feel there's so many emotions in my head while I'm going through this at work. I didn't want to show anybody it, but when I was alone, in my time at work today, that the feelings I had in my head were just sadness. Very sad by this. I felt anger. I felt pretty angry, and most importantly, and the one that I have the most is frustration. I feel like out of all of the words in the vocabulary book, the one word that I use to describe this releasing of Bray Wyatt is frustration. I was super frustrated because of this, and I'm not the only one. There are tons, and I mean tons, of people frustrated by this. And at first I was like, obviously I was upset for the obvious reasons, but I was like in my head, he's been dealing with a lot of shit ever since Brody Lee passed away. God bless Brody Lee. Ever since Brody Lee's passed away, he has not been in the same mental state. He came back to WWE TV for 3 weeks, and we haven't seen him since WrestleMania. And they basically took his gimmick and they gave it to Alexa Bliss, which is a much worse version of his gimmick. It's what she has now. They pretty much, at first she had the Firefly Funhouse theme, or at least a remix of it. She was doing all the creepy shit. She still is now, but she even has his finisher. She even took Bray's finisher, Sister Abigail. And everybody was like, for the people that think that Alexa Bliss is just stealing Bray Wyatt's gimmick, you gotta wait. You gotta see what happens. You gotta wait for his return to see what he does. You gotta see what the end all be. We gotta see what the conclusion is. Yeah, we got our conclusion, all right. We got our conclusion to Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt's story, the conclusion was Bray Wyatt was actually going to get released by the WWE, and Alexa Bliss is just going to keep whatever shit gimmick she has right now. And that was it. That was it. So, thinking about it, I thought it was maybe personal reasons. Maybe he requested his release. Maybe he wanted to take time off, extended time off, and then he would give the company a call when he's ready and they give him a deal. Maybe it was that. Maybe they both had an agreement in good terms. But then a report comes out from Dave Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp, and they were told the reason Wyndham was cut was because of budget cuts. Oh, I love that word, man. Budget cuts. It's the same reason why Aleister Black was cut. Same way why Buddy Murphy was released. Same reason Ruby Riott was released. Same reason Chelsea Green was released. Mickie James. It goes on and on. They were all released because of the same thing Bray Wyatt was released for. Good old budget cuts. And I'm like, that's it. I can't, I don't, I can't, it's not because of mental and his health issues. It's literally because WWE does not see good talent when they have good talent. They had one of the most creative geniuses in the wrestling business. I would put him right there. I would probably say Chris Jericho, number one. Chris Jericho is a freaking smart-ass genius when it comes to creative and storylines and gimmicks. Jericho is the top guy, I think, and he's been doing it for years. And then I probably have Daniel Bryan behind him, and then Bray. Bray is right up there with Chris Jericho and Daniel Bryan for being the most creative people in the business. This man had a gimmick in 2014 which was creepy as shit. He was the Eater of Worlds, Bray Wyatt, and a faction called the Wyatt Family with Brody Lee, Luke Harper, and Eric Rowan. And he would cut these promos where it's in the dark and smoke's up and you got the light right in the middle. You got Harper and Rowan right behind him. And he's talking in this weird, creepy voice. It sounds frightening at the same time, but at the same time, it's like that's not his normal talking voice. But he's legit creeping you out with what he's saying because, you know, it's just he's got this weird demised voice, and it was freaking awesome. The promos he would cut on John Cena and Roman Reigns when he was a babyface, and Daniel Bryan. You know, I remember that match at Royal Rumble against Daniel Bryan. What I remember more is the night Daniel Bryan turned on Bray Wyatt in that steel cage. It was a tag team steel cage match. I think they were going against the Usos, I want to say. Excuse me. Another long day at work today. I ain't making this up, man. I'm pretty tired. But, what I remember the most from that feud with Daniel Bryan in 2014 was the turn that Daniel Bryan had. And he was in this Wyatt family gear, and he turned on Bray Wyatt. He turned into a babyface, and that crowd in Buffalo, New York was iconic for that moment. And they held on to every yes that Daniel Bryan did before he hit that running knee. It's like everybody at the same time, at the same exact moment, was going, yes, yes, yes. Literally everybody in that crowd had their hands up going, yes. That was beautiful. That was one of the best Monday Night Raw moments I can remember ever watching, man. And then he beats Daniel Bryan and he goes into a feud with John Cena. And he lost at WrestleMania, which was awful. Absolutely awful that Bray Wyatt did not go over in that match, and Cena did when Cena did not need to go over Bray Wyatt that night. And the Eater of Worlds, he then a year later faces The Undertaker. You know, if Bray Wyatt beat Daniel Bryan, and then he went on to beat John Cena at WrestleMania, this guy, you would be a complete idiot if you did not consider him being a person to stop The Undertaker's undefeated streak. That is just freaking stupid not to think that he had a chance. If he had beaten Cena and Bryan in the same year, that he had not had a chance to break The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania 31. And I would have had a younger guy break The Undertaker's streak instead of Brock Lesnar. And then he goes into WrestleMania. He loses. He loses to The Undertaker. The main thing that I absolutely hated about the Eater of Worlds gimmick was, like I said with the promos were freaking great. It did not matter who he was facing. John Cena, Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose. But always, all the time, this guy would talk all game. He would talk smack. He would talk trash about the opponent. And then at the pay-per-view, or when it comes to the big match, WWE always gave him the L. And it came to a point where all that trash and all that game Bray Wyatt is talking on his opponent before the match is not taken serious, because Bray Wyatt kept taking L after L after L after L. And that's when WWE fucked up with Bray Wyatt. They fucked him over on numerous occasions. I just named a few right there. Talking all the big game and then losing the big matches after talking all that big game. Losing to John Cena at WrestleMania 30 should have never happened. And then The Fiend. Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell. That match should have never, ever been booked. And since I just talked about the Eater of Worlds, I might as well talk about The Fiend. So Bray Wyatt comes back after this long extended period of time off. On an episode of Raw, he introduces the Firefly Funhouse. And it's got all this puppets, Mercy the Buzzard, Abby the Witch, the pig, I don't remember the pig's name, Huskus the Pig, that was his name, and Rambling Rabbit. He was the main one. How can I forget that? But he came up with this Firefly Funhouse and all these characters. I don't think it was anybody else that came up with that. That was probably him on his own, coming up with a new gimmick. The Firefly Funhouse version of him and the Fiend version of him. I remember the night of SummerSlam 2019. And that entrance he had going into his match with Finn Balor was the most talked about thing on that SummerSlam show, was his entrance. And not the match was not great against Finn Balor, but it was worthy talking enough to say that was the best thing on the entire show. That match between Finn and Bray was the best thing on the entire show that year's SummerSlam. And then we get to Hell in a Cell. Seth Rollins, Universal Championship. Inside Hell in a Cell, there's one way in and there's one way out. There's only one way you could have done this, and that was giving Bray Wyatt the Universal Championship. Everybody in this match everybody going into this match was cheering for Bray Wyatt. Basically, in the fans' eyes, Bray Wyatt was the babyface. Seth Rollins was the heel. That's when Seth Rollins was acting like a fucking dumbass on social media, in those interviews, and absolutely nobody liked Seth Rollins because he was getting babyface heel heat like Roman Reigns for all the wrong reasons, because he was overexposed and he made himself look like a complete idiot online. So like I said, there's one way in and there's one way out of this Hell in a Cell match. And this match was one of the worst booked WWE matches I have ever seen in my life. And it is one of the worst booked matches in the history of WWE. They did a DQ inside Hell in a Cell after Seth Rollins was repeatedly, over and over again, destroying Bray Wyatt. That was one of the worst booked matches in the history of Hell in a Cell. And then, it's not done. We're not done there. We get to Saudi Arabia. The death of the Fiend. Bray Wyatt jobs out to 53-year-old Bill Goldberg in 3 minutes for Goldberg to become the new Universal Champion. And on that show, and on that night, the Fiend never recovered again. He was finished. He never felt the same. He never recovered. He was never that over after that finish, after that decision. We just talked about one of the worst matches in WWE history. That was one of the most creative decisions in the history of WWE. You buried your best character for a 53-year-old who is getting paid $2 million to work a 3-minute match, and he didn't even have the guts to say, this guy should go over. This guy's the future. He said, I should win the Universal Championship because it would make me look like a hero to the kids. As if kids are going to look at Bill Goldberg as a hero for beating the Fiend. Get the hell out of here, man. And I don't even need to talk about the Fiend after that. I don't need to. Because that was his death. Losing to Bill Goldberg in Saudi Arabia. And it's just frustrating that WWE let go one of the most creative individuals in the entire company. They could have at least kept him around when he was done his wrestling career, knowing how smart and how creative he is. They could have used him as a producer. as a backstage role when he was done wrestling. And they could have used him for creative. On the creative team. Being creative for other superstars on the roster. But they didn't do that. They let him go, and it's their loss. WWE did not deserve Wyndham Rotunda. They did not deserve Bray Wyatt. They took his creativity and they shoved it away. They said, F your creativity. We're going to do it our way. We're going to do it the burial way. The way we always love it. It's absolutely pathetic. It is downright pathetic. This is WWE's loss and another company's gain. Another company's gain. Where is he going to go after this? To be perfectly honest with you, the best place for him to probably go is probably AEW. And everybody always talks about, oh, we're going to get a new leader of the Exalted One. Are we going to get a new Exalted One? We're going to get a new leader of the Dark Order. People said that about Malachi Black. I did not want to see that. I was like, whenever people come in, they said, oh, they should be the new leader of the Dark Order. I'm like, that spot is reserved for Brody Lee and for Brody Lee only. But in this case, if you really think about it, besides his son, obviously, -1, so for when he's ready to wrestle in the business and continue to carry on his dad's legacy, the next best person to come in, be the leader of the Dark Order, and if, most importantly, if Amanda Huber is okay with it, and if members of the Dark Order are okay with it, the best person to come in there and be the new leader of the Dark Order and continue the legacy of Mr. Brody Lee is his best friend, Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, because they had that relationship where it's just, it feels like you're two brothers. They had love and so much respect and passion for each other. For when Brody passed away, and you read Bray Wyatt's Instagram message, which a lot of people read, you start to tear up. And you could feel that just reading the message, how emotional he really is. And how upset he really is from his best friend passing away. And I don't know what mental state he is, but if he's dealing with anything right now, with depression or what, I have no idea what's going on with the man's life, but if there's something going on with him, I wish him absolutely nothing but the very best for him and for his family now and in the future. I have absolutely the utmost respect for Bray Wyatt as an individual, as a wrestler. I'm sure he is going to thrive somewhere else, whether that would be in AEW, wherever. But I think that probably his best place would be in AEW, and seeing him continuing and carrying the legacy of Brody Lee would probably be one of the most heartfelt stories in professional wrestling, whether it happens at the end of this year or going into next year. I think him doing that would be one of the most heartfelt stories and emotional stories in professional wrestling. And another thing about him being cut with budget cuts is this guy got so much money for this company based off of merchandise. Everybody was buying his merchandise, whether it would be a Fiend mask, a lantern, the title, which is costing $700, which is ridiculous. But even shirts. This guy was your top merchandise seller on WWEshop.com, and he made you so much money. I have 2 Bray Wyatt merchandise shirts, at my house. Not at my shore house here, but at my house back at home. I have 2 Bray Wyatt shirts, and I loved him, and I bought his merchandise because I respected him as an individual and as a performer. So the fact that they cut him because of budget cuts while he was selling so much merchandise for them is absolutely ridiculous. And this guy, the last thing I'm going to say about it is, which is pathetic, the last thing I'm going to say, then I'm going to get out of here, is he spent thousands of dollars out of his own pocket. He spent thousands of dollars out of his own pocket for having the best attire as the Fiend, going out there and picking the perfect mask, the perfect gear to get this attire. He spent thousands of dollars of his own money to go to waste like that. How pathetic is that? I'm absolutely frustrated by the release of Bray Wyatt, but at the end of the day, whenever he recovers, and hopefully he will be recovered soon from going through what he's going through because of the passing of Mr. Brody Lee, whenever he recovers, he will stand on his 2 feet and he will kill it wherever he goes. And I have no doubt about that, because he is one of the most creative people in the wrestling business. And guys, that's all I got for you here tonight. Thank you all for joining me on this emergency video. Did not expect this. I was going to do a wrestling news round-off. So I guess this was it. I'm going to take the day off tomorrow, and then we'll be back Monday with Monday Night Raw. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, man. Be sure to subscribe for August. It's going to be a crazy month, like I said. We're in the stretch to All Out and SummerSlam coming up very soon. SummerSlam is in 3 weeks, which is crazy. All Out is in 5 weeks. So slowly but surely, we're going to get 2 of the biggest shows of the entire year. And also AEW Rampage at the United Center on August 20th, the night before SummerSlam in Chicago. They sold 15,000 tickets on the pre-sale. On the pre-sale, they sell 15,000 tickets. Yet Vince McMahon wants to go on a conference call and say they're not as close to what WCW was to us in back in the day. I don't consider them competition. Bro, they are competition. They are your competition. You might not want to admit it, but AEW, All Elite Wrestling, is WWE's competition, whether you want to admit it or not. Just to throw that in there. But be sure to subscribe to the channel. Some more content. Comment down below your thoughts about the release of Bray Wyatt. Let me know down below. I will absolutely respond to your comment. Hit the like button if you liked or heard from me in this video. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram for more stuff. At Colin_Joseph. You'll be seeing me tweet about wrestling all the time. Live tweeting during Raw, NXT, AEW, SmackDown, pay-per-views. Unless I have something. I'm live tweeting every day. Not every day, but every time those shows are on. So, that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you all for joining me. Have a good night. Stay safe. And as always, stay classy, man. And I'll see you for Monday Night Raw review this coming Monday. The show's at Chicago, too. It's WWE about to get there. Are they about to hear from the Chicago faithful? We'll see. We'll see. Have a good night, guys. I'll see you Monday night.